So let's talk about dark skin in tattooing. This can be somewhat of a controversial topic, but for me, it's pretty simple. So when I first started teaching myself how to tattoo, I tattooed who I knew, friends, family, or people that were around me. Brown skin to dark skin, kind of like that range. Besides when I tattooed myself, I'm more fair skinned, as you can probably tell. The thing is, when I would tattoo, whether I was tattooing myself, whether I was tattooing someone darker skin, medium complexion, I tattooed it all the same because I really didn't know any better. As time went on, I kind of wondered, this doesn't look as good as it does on lighter skin as it does on darker skin, the way I'm tattooing. Like it doesn't look as good. So I knew there was something I was doing wrong, because I've seen a lot of tattoos on darker complexion that looks phenomenal. So I knew it was something I was doing wrong, but I just didn't know what yet. So like any YouTube University graduate, I went online and I tried to find an answer to my problem. Began looking up like tips for tattooing darker skin or darker complexion or stuff like that. And what was weird to me is I kept finding the same kinds of videos. Like they would market it as tips for tattooing darker skin, but then the video would show like medium skin tone. I was like, that to me, that's not dark skin. So it made me like kind of realize something. Like in the tattoo industry, I feel like what people say is dark skin or darker complexion is really not. And there's kind of like this known controversial stigma of like between whether tattoo artists turn down darker skin or don't really like to do it or don't post it as often and all those kind of things. And to me, it's pretty unfortunate because you can do a really sick tattoo on any skin tone. It's just how you tattoo it or how you go about designing it. So for me, I realized quickly, when you're tattooing darker skin, you need to up the contrast and limit your ink palette. So for black and gray, you need to shrink down your cups as you go down tattooing lighter skin to darker skin. So as your value range changes, so does your ink caps. Meaning, if you normally use, let's say, a full cap, a half cap, a quarter cap, a 6-drop, a 3-drop, all these different caps, right? You need to shrink that down the darker skin they have. So if you're tattooing light, like very fair skin like myself, versus someone who's a lot darker complexion, it's going to vary. So there's two main things that you need to do with when you're tattooing darker skin. You need to shrink the ink caps and the range that you have. So instead of having maybe 6 ink caps, you only have 2. And the second thing you need to do is bump the contrast up in your design. So you can tell in this one that I did is I just bumped up the contrast, made the blacks really black and made the lights really light. Where I usually would put a light tone or maybe a mid tone, I just took those out and I just left them skin tone. Because you have to remember, the lightest point of your tattoo is not actually what people think, which is white. Like you can't just put a bunch of white ink and be like, oh, well, I'll brighten it up with white ink. You have to know that the lightest point on a tattoo is going to be their skin tone. So it's super crucial to know when you're tattooing dark skin. So that's why I leave a lot of open skin, because I know that's going to be the lightest point, and then I can fill in the darker areas with just pure black. So back to this one that I did use whites at the end. When I use whites on it, my intention wasn't to just like try and make an area super bright. It was just to kind of use as a divider between two tones that I wanted to separate and keep separate over time, kind of like a wall. So that way, if it sticks on him, then that's cool. Then he has a nice some white highlights and stuff. But if it doesn't, then it's still used as almost like a barrier between the two tones that I have. But notice that I didn't overdo it with white. I didn't go crazy with pulling out a mag and just saturating everything with a bunch of white. Compared to this one that I did, which is more fair skin, I was able to use a lot of range of tones and saturation throughout the entire piece because his lightest point on his skin is white or a lot lighter. So again, it doesn't matter what skin complexion you are, you can get pretty much what you want. It's just how the tattoo artist goes about designing. But you let me know what you think. Am I tripping?